Hello out there, it's Julie. Welcome in. Today's video is going to be called The Ghosts of Tarot Past. And I think I am going to hashtag this because I'm curious as to what your first decks were. I was in my car driving and thinking about tarot, as I always do, as many of you may as well, unless I'm just the weirdo. But I think there's other weirdos out there with me. And I was thinking about all of the decks that I used in the beginning and how I haven't actually touched them recently, save for maybe a couple. These are decks that are in my permanent collection. They're not going anywhere. I've used them so often. They're so loved. But I wanted to kind of revisit them and re-explore them. And some of them I know I may never pick up and use again, but they were sort of a piece of my personal history when it came to reading. If you haven't seen my other videos, I used to do free readings on TikTok, like in-depth 10-15-minute readings for free for people. And I used to love to switch out my decks. I used to love I used to love letting people pick their own decks. It was a lot of fun, but I don't do it anymore. And the type of deck I am drawn to now is a little bit different. So maybe I'll do this as the Ghosts of Tarot Past, and then I'll have a Ghosts of Tarot Future in the next video or two. I still have to get through my final decluttering, which at this point may be another 2 parts. Goodness gracious, it's kind of wild, but I digress. So let's go ahead and start. Oh, but before I do, I got in a deck recently called the Gareth Tarot. It's an out-of-print deck. I love it. I opened the package, it reeked of smoke. And I was wondering if any of you have any tips as to how to get the smoke smell out of the cards. If I have to lose the box, I lose the box. The box, it's cardboard. I don't think that smell is going to easily dissipate. But if you have any hints or tips as to how to maybe get the smell off the cards themselves, it would be greatly appreciated. They seem to have a little bit of like a coating. So can I just use like a little damp cloth and just maybe, I know, I feel like it's cigarette smoke. It just like sticks on, it's sticky, right? But if anyone has any hints or tips or tricks or things to try, I would love to try it because it's a really cool deck and I really want to use it. But with that said, let's get started. So this is the Light Seers deck. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because it is a very, very common deck. I think everybody at this point has seen it, even if you don't read tarot. This is the mass market one, and I loved it. I did love this deck. When I read with it, it flowed really well. The symbolism in it flowed from card to card. So it was a wonderful visual reader. Like I loved reading with this on a visual basis, like connecting the cards through the images, or through the visuals and the symbols and the images. I know the artwork can be a little polarizing. I personally like the artwork in this deck. I think it's really pretty. I know that they're basically photographs that the artist drew on top of digitally, but you know, I still like it. I still like the art, and I think it's really beautiful. And I think it's a very easy deck to read with. I also feel that if you're reading for somebody who may be a little hesitant of tarot reading and they want to come for a reading but are, you know, scared because of their preconceived notions about it, this is a great deck because the Devil card and the Death card are not threatening at all. It is a pregnant Empress, which I've been sort of wary about lately, or at least thinking a little bit more about, because, you know, yes, you know, pregnant women can be like mama bears and there is a fierceness to them, but I feel like a lot of the Empresses in some newer decks, not all obviously, are very much just that motherly, matronly figure, as opposed to being able to really express the fierceness simultaneously. Because I see the Empress as a very strong, empowered woman too. And it's not that a pregnant woman can't be strong and empowered, but it feels like a lot of times the Empress, the focus seems to be on the nurturing, you know, growing kind of aspect of it. And there's so much more to the Empress than that. So I'm really not going to take too much time on this, but this deck is well worn. It is well loved. I can easily shuffle it, and this can be a bear to shuffle when you first get it. But I mean, I don't know if you can see it, but it has that like the dip from shuffling it so many times. And you know, this was when I used to do the this kind of shuffle, which I don't do anymore. I actually don't like that way at all. I think it's not, I don't know. I don't know why I did it that way. I think I just did it because when I first started reading tarot, that's sort of what everybody did, because I was seeing it. I didn't have a mentor. I taught tarot to myself. So that's kind of how I did it. And then I was like, I don't like it. And I started, I just do an overhand shuffle and a cutting of the deck and a pulling of the top. And anyway, I have my own way of shuffling now that's not like, and like cards just flying everywhere, because it's just not precise. So that is the Light Seers deck. The next ghost of Tarot Past is the Neo Tarot. And I really do love this deck. I just think with all the new decks I've had coming in, I haven't had a chance to really revisit this. Comes with a huge book, nice big book. I love the edging on this. Yeah, nice book. It's pretty. It's a big box. Everyone loves a big box these days, apparently. But these are the cards. I love the cards, and I love reading with it. They're a bit minimalistic. But it doesn't bother me on these. The cardstock's okay. They're not coated. I didn't read with these as much as I read with some of the others that you're going to be seeing, but these definitely got loved and read with. And I still love this deck. I still love the artwork on this deck. Yeah, I think it's really pretty. It's very simple. And sometimes, like I've said before, I just want simple. I don't want to have to think in depth all the time. I want my mind to be able to kind of just flow to and fro. And this deck allows me to do that. And it's a pretty common deck, though I haven't seen too many people read with it. I've seen a few people talk about it, but it's definitely not as popular, at least from my experience, as other decks. Let me see the name out here. It's the Neo. This is the Neo Tarot. I think I said that. I hope I said that. But yeah, I love this deck, and I do feel like I want to bring it back out. This, if I'm going seasonal, my dog might be barking in a second, just so you know. If I am going seasonally, this is a summer deck to me. The colors in it are very summery. So this might be a deck that, oh, she's going to bark. This might be a deck that I work with in the summertime. So yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Anyway, that is the Neo Tarot, and this is one of the decks I used to work with all the time. All right, the Dark Mansion. This is one that I have definitely worked with more than a few times. I'm not going to go over it too much because I've already talked about this deck quite a bit. Have an in-depth video about it, but it's just such a fun deck. It is such a great deck. And like, I am not big into cartoony decks. But as I've been doing my decluttering, I realized I have a few decks that are a bit cartoony, and I have the Cosmic Slumber. All right. I didn't really connect with this. It felt a little bit too surface. Now, I suppose this is a deck that it is one that you can be a little bit more intuitive with, but I just wasn't really vibing with it. It lacked the symbolism that I sort of want if I'm going to be reading with a cartoon style deck. And this deck has the symbolism. It has added symbolism even that the Rider-Waite-Smith doesn't, that helps add another layer to the card. So even though it's a bit cartoony, it's fun, but you can read deeper than just surface level with this deck. This is worn very, very well because of the rose petal finish, which is extremely annoying in the beginning, but gets better as you go along, for sure. And yeah, it's like dark. It's like dark cheer, right? It's like cheerful, but it's dark. So I don't know. The light in it, the way that the light is sort of created in it is beautiful. I don't know. I just love this deck. Obviously I've talked about it quite a bit. It's fun. It's in my top 5 to 10 decks, and this is one that I still read with sometimes. So I can't say I don't use this anymore, but this was a deck that I used all the time back in the day. And if you notice, most of my decks from back then are all Rider-Waite-Smith, like no pips, none of that. It's all Rider-Waite-Smith. So next, the Dreamkeepers Tarot. I love this. I love digital art. I love digital art that is done really well. And this is digital art that is done really, really well. I will say this deck is actually in my chopping block box because I love the Tarot of Mystical Moments, which I will show next. And they both have a similar feel. And while this deck has some really big, like, wow cards, I feel like the Tarot of Mystical Moments is there's some wow cards in there, but it's a more consistent wow. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's why this is on the chopping block. I'm having a hard time letting go of it because I have read with this deck so much and so often. And I love it. I just don't know if I love it enough to have two decks that are in a sort of similar style. But they're really pretty. And it's really well done digital art, in my opinion. Like this to me is a wow card. It's so beautiful. The Empress in this deck. Queen of Cups. And I'm sure you guys have probably seen this deck at some point. Oh, see, and the star, like this is the cover of the box. This is a wow card to me, 100%. But some are just kind of like, okay, that's pretty. Like, that's nice. I love the 10 of Wands. I think that's a great card too. Effective. The 9 of Wands is effective. Excuse me. I love the Fates. Such a pretty deck. And I think at this point I have cleared enough out and I'm not going to be getting that much more in that I can probably put this on my shelf and not feel bad that I kept a deck that I'm not going to be using that much. I mean, listen, I'm about to show you 10 decks that I'm not going to be using that much. So what's one more, right? I guess this is in the 10. So I'm showing you 9 other decks that I'm not using much. But it's really fun. It's really beautiful, really well done. Love the Fool. There's just this really, I don't know how to, is it an ethereal? It's an ethereal feeling deck. It does feel otherworldly for sure. Soft. The color palette's really beautiful and muted. Decent cardstock. I mean, I've used these a lot. You can see that there is some wear. So they have been used a lot. Love the World. Love the High Priestess. Ugh, as I sit here, that box from the Gareth Tarot is so permeated with smoke. Like I can smell it and feel it in my sinuses. I think I have to like just put the box outside. Maybe if I put it outside, will that air it out? I don't know. I hope so because it's bad. Anyway, that's the Dreamkeepers Tarot by Liz Houston. Houston. By Liz. We're just going to go right into the Tarot of Mystical Moments by Katrine Wellstein. I love this deck. And this is one I probably will still read with. Another beautifully done digital deck. Great size book. Not too big, not too small. Not a huge fan of the lamination on the cards. I am not a huge fan of this particular gilding. This is a really sharp gilding. But it didn't put me off enough because I love this deck. So I still use it. And I feel like the digital art is beautiful in this, but I find it to be a little bit more consistent in the cards and their meaning. I feel like it was, I don't want to say it was thought out a little bit better, but it feels like it was thought out a little bit better. And I believe each of these cards, I think it's this deck, has 2 kings. Or emperors, I should say. Or no, yeah, 2 kings, not the emperor, 2 kings. I love this deck. And again, this is another really popular one, as it should be. It's a great deck. Another ethereal, kind of magical, surreal world that you get thrown into when you're using it. Yeah, there's two kings. I believe there's a feminine king and a masculine king. But yeah, I love that Fool. So, and it adds a layer, right? So you can read this if you know the Rider-Waite-Smith. You can read it in that vein, just utilizing Five of Swords. But it also allows you to add another layer to the reading if you go on some of the art choices or the choices that the creator made. I just love, love, love this deck. So this is staying with me, and that is why the Dreamkeepers Tarot is on the chopping block. But yeah, that is the tarot, the tarot of mystical moments. It's the tarot of mystical moments. Okay, so I know in some of my other videos, like about the spellcaster tarot and the Darkwood tarot, I come off as a paper snob. Okay, and I am a little bit of a paper snob, but this is to show you I am not that big of a snob because I love this deck. I haven't used it in a long time, but I really, really loved this deck. I have used this deck all the time, and this is another one with really, really poor paper quality. But I loved it so much it didn't matter. But I haven't read with it, to be honest. I have not read with this deck in a very long while, but I love this deck. So here we go. I don't know why they're using these poor paper qualities. Paper quality. This is a deck, I will say, if this got reprinted on another paper stock, I would buy this again. Like, that's how much I like this deck. I like this deck a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. It's the artwork for me. It's the illustrations, the colors. It's vibrant. It's rich. It has depth. It's just really unfortunate paper quality. Really, really unfortunate. It's diverse. I love that about it. And I kind of miss reading with it. And every once in a while, I do take it out and I'll do a pull for myself with it. That's how much I love it. But I just can't with the paper quality. But it's not enough to completely put me off of it, right? So, like I said, if this ever gets reprinted on better paper quality, or if anybody has a newer version of this, if the paper quality is good, could you let me know? Because I will rebuy it or repurchase it. I will purchase another copy because I do want to use it more often again. And this also, to me, if we're going seasonally, if we're exploring decks, this to me feels like a summer deck as well. Just the color, the vibrancy, the pop, the energy. It's bright, it's lively. Makes me want to be outside. Yeah, look at that. That card is. That's what happens. This is why I don't like poor paper quality. Now, that being said, I take much better care of my cards now. I don't shuffle them the way that I used to. But this is why I don't like it. Because even if you're careful, one little ding and this card is ruined. So, yeah, this is a beautiful, beautiful deck, but be warned, at least with the older version, the card quality is no better than paper mailers that you get from your local realtors. All right, next. The 8 Coins Tattoo Tarot by Lana Zellner. I love this deck, and I don't know why I haven't read with it anytime soon. Anyway, I know why. I shouldn't say I don't know why, because we all know why. It's because I have a bazillion and 10 decks. But I can actually look in my office now, and I can see all my decks. And I know that I'm going to have a deep connection with all of them at some point, hopefully one day, maybe. Anyway, this is the 8 Coins Tattoo Tarot. Comes with this nice little book and these extra cards. I think these were sort of like alternate cards that didn't get used in the deck. And I like that you can see sort of the sketching in it. I love seeing, you know, the artist's way of creating the deck. Anyway, nice big thick book, which I never read. It comes with a spreadsheet, which I'm not going to open. And these are the cards. I adore this deck. And I know there's another tattoo tarot out there, but this one had the illustrated minors. And back then I wasn't reading with pips. So it had a more illustrated minor, which I really liked. But I actually think I'm keeping this close to my desk right now because I do want to read with this again. And this feels like it could be, this is a good year-round deck. You know, it's kind of like this really beautiful balance of light and dark within it. I think the illustrations can lend themselves to a darker season or a lighter season. I think it's a good year-round deck, honestly. And I think I'm going to start picking all of my tarot decks by season from now on. Because it just feels like the right thing to do. So I just think this is great. So you have drawing number 23. So I think like if you wanted to get these tattooed on your body, if I remember correctly, you can actually take them and I believe get them made into tattoos. If I'm remembering correctly, it may not be. So don't quote me on that, please, okay? I love these. I love these. I love these so much. Yeah, so I think I'm going to keep this at my desk. I mean, that's a whole other video, right? All of my desk decks. Oy, that's a mouthful. Say that 5 times fast. Let me try it. Okay, hold on. Desk decks. Anyway, this is going to be a desk deck. And I promise I'm done saying that for the rest of this video. The Moon Baby Tarot. I do have a second copy of this because I was so worried when I was reading all the time with it that I was going to destroy it. But I have to say, the cards have held up pretty well. This is an indie deck. I think it may be a mass market deck now, but this is the first edition of this deck. It has a very, I don't know if you can see it in this light, but it's like a light pink edging on it, but it has gotten worn from use a little bit. But you can see that these cards have held up really well. It's sort of like a satin finish. Beautiful cardstock. I absolutely adore this cardstock. These are based on the 1970s Hoi Polloi tarot, which I do want to get at some point, but I'm waiting to find the perfect copy. And I also just discovered that my Mary L tarot, I just realized it doesn't have the controversial Hierophant, and I want that Hierophant because I think it's such a powerful Hierophant in that deck. So I need to get the first edition of the Mary L too. So that might be what I'm going to ask for from my family for the holiday season, or at least a contribution to it. I love this deck. I love the colors. They work so beautifully together. They're like muted, kind of earth tones, but it's a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. I mean, there's nothing groundbreaking or earth-shattering. It does lack some of the detail the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith has, but it's sort of nice. Like if you are new and you want to read with a Rider-Waite-Smith, but you want to kind of move away from the like uber traditional one, like this is a really great variation to pick up, in my humble opinion. I love the 10 of Cups. It's so fun. So yeah, I need to get myself a good Hoi Polloi sometime soon. That is the Moon Baby. So yeah, I think do think you can get this mass market now, if I am correct. Don't remember, but moving on. This is one of my all-time favorite decks. It is just so much fun. It is totally based on the Rider-Waite-Smith, flows right along with it, but it just adds a layer of fun to it. And there's a whole bunch of decks out there that I've seen that sort of are in that pulp movie style, poster style, but they've sort of been adapted to tarot, whereas Todd Alcott has actually thought about the tarot and created cards in the pulp movie style. First off, this box is beautiful. I love this box. Do wish it had a magnetic closure, but I have to find some flaw with it, right? I'm not the biggest fan of the backs, but we're not reading with the backs. So let's just get into the cards. That's so fun. And like, I love how he actually illustrated temperance to show you like what it means. I love that. I love that for this deck. So let's see. Full Wheel of Fortune. I just said those in reverse. But yeah, it's so much fun. And it's a great read. So, I mean, if you know the Rider-Waite-Smith, you can read almost any deck, but this deck is going to be just, it's going to be a breeze. And I would say it's a, you know, if you're a beginner and you're looking to branch out from your foundational deck of the Rider-Waite-Smith or Tarot de Marseille, this is a great step out of the Rider-Waite-Smith and getting something a little bit different, because it follows right along with the Rider-Waite-Smith, but there are some cards that may sort of challenge you and make you think a little bit deeper, or add a little bit more meaning to the card that you're already aware of. Because when I look at cards, and most people who have studied tarot, whether it's Thoth, the Tarot de Marseille, or the Rider-Waite-Smith, you have the card images sort of like burned into your brain. So I know for me, when I look at this card, I'm comparing it in my head to the Rider-Waite-Smith and saying, what can I add to this? What can I take away from this? How can I read this in a way that may be different from what I know foundationally? And that's why I always think it's very important for people who are beginners, if there's any beginners watching, to make sure that you have your foundations nice and set, because it's going to make reading cards, any deck, it's going to make it infinitely easier. And I know a lot of people are put off by the artwork on the older school cards, but it's really important to have your foundations. Like, you wouldn't build a house, you know, on unleveled ground, right? You have to have some sort of foundation to make sure it's stable. And I think the same goes for tarot, because you don't want your house of cards to fall down, do you? No, you don't. And this last deck is 100% in my top 5. I adore this deck. It is Rider-Waite-Smith, but it is like scaled down. Like, it's more minimalistic Rider-Waite-Smith, and the art style is gorgeous. I have only seen one other person ever use this deck or talk about this deck, and that was, oh my goodness, Rose Honey Ritual has this deck, and I was like shocked because I'd never seen anyone use this. This deck is so awesome. It is the Tarot by Caro, and I actually found this in my local metaphysical shop, which has, excuse me, a huge selection of tarot decks. And while they have open stock so you can look through the cards, I just bought this solely on this right here. I was like, I love this, I'm getting it. And I was so pleased. I was pleased as punch when I purchased it. So it just comes with a very, very basic little white pamphlet, I should say. But again, if you know the Rider-Waite-Smith, you can use a Rider-Waite-Smith book for reference if you need to, because this is Rider-Waite-Smith. So anyway, here we go. 8 of Pentacles. Aren't these beautiful? I have used this deck quite a bit, so you can see a little bit of wear on the edges, but for the amount that I've used it, they're in pretty good condition. But I just adore this artwork. Like, I want one of these like hanging in my house. I just look at that. Like, even without the words, just, oh, the magician, look at that. It is such a gorgeous deck, and it is like it's just not well known. The only thing I have here is feels like intestines, but maybe there's something to be said about that, right? Because when we're in a state of stress, anxiety, and worry, we're prone to digestive problems, and that kind of feels like that feels like my celiac disease when I eat gluten. Sorry. Anyway, moving on. We don't need to talk about that. But these are so beautiful. So beautiful. I like that they're a little darker. They're a little on the darker side. Just gorgeous. Gorgeous. And I am so surprised this isn't more popular than it is. Is it I guess it would be like a dark horse, right? This is like the dark horse. Look at the hangman. Oh, the 10 of swords. I mean, can you? So awesome. And I need to start using this again because I love it. I haven't read for other people in a while. And this deck makes me want to like read for other people again. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's because I had such a great connection to the imagery when I was reading for others. But it sort of is making me nostalgic, and I'm feeling like, oh, look at that hermit. Look at that hermit. It's kind of making me want to put a call out to do some readings. Not that I have time to do it, but it's making me want to. So those are my decks from tarot. I just put that in backwards. These are my decks from Tarot Past. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Next time, I'm either going to be doing a decluttering video, my next decluttering video, or the ghosts from Tarot Future. So yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching, and y'all have a great day. Cheers.